Hello, and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mythical Dax Index. A bit of background on the Mythical Dax Index is the longest time, there came up in the forums quite a bit in terms of, is there a way to create an index using DAX? And it was kind of almost a joke, I guess, in terms of nobody thought it was really possible, because you'll find all over the place in DAX, there's no guaranteed sort order that comes back from DAX. But I don't know, there was a thread and I was messing around with some things and I kind of stumbled across a solution that provides an index via DAX. And so I shared it out with the community and called it the Mythical Dax Index, just to denote the fact that pretty much before that point, I think everyone pretty much thought it was impossible. But turns out it's not, although it does come with some caveats. So what you start with here, you start with a table with just, we've got our fruits here: orange, banana, apple, grapes, kiwi, mango, coconut. And then I also created these are just enter data queries, and another one that has some, it repeats the banana, right? So it's got duplicates. Now, I need to caveat this with, if you're going to create an index for your data, you should be doing it in Power Query, right? Or doing it within your source data system. But, who knows? And there may be an instance where you can't pull that off and you need some kind of index for, and create it in DAX. And there's also kind of an interesting use case around ranking. And I'll get to that in a little bit. So the basic premise behind the Mythical Dax Index is that essentially you grab your rows of your table and you count the number of rows in your table. And then you use the function concatenatex to concatenate all of those row values into a single text string delineated by the pipe character. Okay, and the pipe character is important because then we can use path item to grab individual items out of that text string. So essentially what we do in this case, what we're doing is we're creating a table, and what we do is we add columns to a generate series from 1 to count. So we're generating an index. This is the index, right? From 1 to the count of the number of rows that we have in our table. And then what we do is we use path item, like I referred to, and we just grab the value out of the item and make sure we return it as text. And that generates this index table. So now we've added an index. Now, the interesting thing about this, right, is all over the place. The DAX does not guarantee sort order. But this is returning the sort order that's been designated by the data model, right? So as you import the data, it's going to create a sort order for that data. And when you then just grab those items within your source table, they're going to be ordered in the same way that they're being displayed within the data view. So if things are displayed in the data view without any filtering or sorting going on, just the way it naturally comes into the data model, then when you add this DAX index, it's going to index it in the same exact order. Okay. Now, more interestingly, I mentioned ranking, right? I'll get to that. Well, let me get to that in a second. So what happens when we have duplicates, right? Well, the interesting thing when you have duplicates is that you don't get repeated values, okay? If we think about RANKX, if you have duplicate values, you're not going to get, you're going to get duplicate rankings no matter what you do, whether you use sparse or you use dense function, in terms of skip, those kind of different options with RANKX, you're still going to get duplicate values in terms of your ranking. But with a DAX index, you don't get that, right? It still orders it. It's you have unique ranking values, if you will. So you can see this. I have this. This one is sorted. So we're using in concatenatex, we're using some of the optional parameters. And of all things, concatenatex is the one function in DAX where you can specify the sort order, as odd as that is. So if we, as you can see here, we have a table, we have our expression that we're returning, our delimiter, but then we have an order by expression. In this case, we're just, we only have a single column, so we're just using that column as the order by. But if you had a value column, then you could use, or even in certain cases, if you have a measure, you could use that in your order by expression and order it by that expression, by that formula. And you could do either descending or ascending. So in this case, we're using the product and we're using descending. So our apple, which is alphabetically, is at the end in this case. So it gets a ranking of 8 or a value of 8, 7, 6 for banana. But if you notice again, even though we have duplicate values, we don't get duplicate rankings, which is unique in terms of you can't accomplish that feat with a RANKX expression. So overall, it's a kind of a novelty, I would say, in terms of the DAX world. It was one of those things that I kind of stumbled across and thought was like, it kind of blew my mind that it was actually possible, because it had been a joke for so long in the community that, there's no way to do a DAX index. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you next time on Microsoft Hates Greg.